Across the U.S., people are rising up against fracking for natural gas. A deadly threat to our homes and our lives is looming on the horizon. It is a new technique of gas oil extraction. It is known by various names. For example, the oil and gas industry says it isn't new. The industry says it's safe. But the industry is lying. The vertical gas wells are a completely different technology. The new technique of deep horizontal fracking destroys drinking water supplies, pollutes our air and our environments, and will continue to do so for possibly hundreds of years as the well casings inevitably fail and disposal sites inevitably leak. In this insider-exclusive investigative TV series new documentary, Fracking, Dangerous Contamination, Bob and Lisa Parr's story, our news team found that in any area where fracking operations have happened, the local people have been outraged by the catastrophic damage to land, water supplies, air quality, animal and human health. Local economies have been destroyed, property values have fallen drastically, up to 90%. And one of those areas is in Wise County, Texas, where the Barnett Shale is located. This is where we begin our story with Bob and Lisa Parr at their ranch and with their lawyer, Brad Gilde of the Gilde Law Firm, who represents them in a classic David versus Goliath battle suing three major corporations, Aruba Petroleum, ConocoPhillips, and Encana Oil and Gas, in the state of Texas to get justice for themselves and thousands of other Texans in an effort to enforce a new motto, "Don't frack with Texas." Lisa and Bob Parr, along with Lisa's school-aged daughter Emma, are seeking up to $8 million in damages from these companies. The Parrs and their lawyer Brad Gilde say that some 63 natural gas wells that surround their 40-acre ranch have introduced dangerous chemicals into the air, water, and soil, thanks in part to the increasingly controversial practice known as fracking. Since 2008, the Parrs experienced migraines, rashes, chronic nosebleeds, open sores, and a range of other health problems that an environmental health expert said are all tied to the nearby gas development. The Parrs also claim that their animal, livestock, and property have been harmed as a result of the activity by a number of these companies. So far, the accused companies have largely declined to comment on this case or have said they were wrongly named in this lawsuit, and industry groups continue to dispute claims that natural gas development causes serious health problems. In June 2012, the U.S. Senate Environmental and Public Works Subcommittee on Clean Air and Nuclear Safety held a hearing on air pollution and natural gas development, an issue the Environmental Protection Agency is also beginning to explore. The case is set for trial October 2013. So what is fracking? Should it be banned, and how does it differ from traditional gas exploration and drilling?
Fracking is the process of extracting natural gas from shale rock deep under existing layers of different types of geology, using high-pressure water and chemicals to fracture or shock the shale, then using a separate combined list of chemicals, including benzene and other toxic products, to create a reaction within the oil-bearing rock. That results in natural gas being released, which is then tapped at the surface by the mining company. It's a technical process that is regarded as highly damaging to rocks and aquifers, although mining companies defend the process as ecologically sound. Here's how it works. The company first drills a well to the shale rock, up to 7,000 or 8,000 feet below the surface in many instances. Then water under pressure is pumped into the well, which sometimes leads to toxic spills. More leaks can occur higher up and directly into the water table, while the fluid eventually is forced thousands of feet underground and into the shale rock. Chemically treated sand and ceramic keeps the fractures open, as fracking chemicals are injected at high pressure to widen the cracks, which releases the natural gas. The problem is the majority of the fracking chemical fluid remains underground. The high pressure damages non-oil bearing rocks as well, which can cause the methane gases and toxic fluids upwards. Carcinogenic fluids like benzene are then pressed upwards under pressure and can reach local aquifers. Residential wells pump the water into homes, while concentrated methane gas creates flammable water and poisonous fumes on the surface. The toxic fluid waste is pumped into poorly constructed pits, and even when lined are prone to leaks. While Shell has decided to continue its process of convincing people that mining by the fracking technique is not damaging, reports from countries such as America, where this has occurred, are not positive, with communities up in arms in various states about the effect of fracking on their groundwater and their lives.
Additionally, the process of fracking introduces additional industrial activity into communities beyond the well, clearing land to build new access roads and new well sites, drilling and encasing the well, fracking the well and generating the waste, trucking in heavy equipment and materials, and trucking out the vast amounts of toxic waste. All of these steps contribute to air and water pollution risk and devaluation of land that is turning our communities into sacrifice zones. Fracking threatens the air we breathe, the water we drink, the communities we love, and the climate on which we all depend. That's why over 250 communities in the United States have passed resolutions to stop fracking, and why Vermont, France, and Bulgaria have stopped it completely. Why a ban? Can't better regulations make fracking safer? No, fracking is inherently unsafe, and we cannot rely on regulation to protect communities' water, air, and public health. The industry enjoys exemptions from key federal legislation protecting our air and water, thanks to aggressive lobbying and cozy relationships with our federal decision makers. Have there been any cases of serious water and air contamination from fracking operations? Federal environmental officials have now scientifically linked underground water pollution with hydraulic fracturing, concluding that contaminants found in central Wyoming were likely caused by the gas drilling process. The findings by the Environmental Protection Agency come partway through a separate national study by the agency to determine whether fracking presents a risk to water resources. In the report released by the EPA said that pollution from 33 abandoned oil and gas well pits, which were the subject of a separate cleanup program, are indeed responsible for some degree of shallow groundwater pollution in the area. That contamination, the agency concluded, had to be caused by fracking. Brad Gilde has earned the highest respect from citizens and lawyers alike as one of the best trial lawyers in Dallas, in Houston, in Texas, and in the nation. He has seen many innocent and hardworking people become victims of corporate abuse. He understands that corporate abuses are some of the most serious, enduring, and divisive social, legal, and ethical violations in the United States. The problem is not just in Dallas or in Texas, but it's nationwide, and its nature is institutionalized. And because of that, he is driven to fight for people who have been harmed by the willful or negligent actions of others. His goals? Not only to get justice for his clients, but to make sure that everyone is treated with equal respect and dignity as guaranteed under the Constitution of the United States. Brad has built a substantial reputation by consistently winning cases other law firms have turned down. His amazing courtroom skills and headline-grabbing success rate continue to provide his clients with the results they need and the results they deserve.
This is the Insider Exclusive on location from the Barnett Shale in Decatur, Texas.
It is my great pleasure to introduce Brad Gilde to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell our audience a little bit about your law firm, what kind of cases you handle.
Gilde Law Firm takes significant catastrophic personal injury cases. We represent injured people. In addition, we represent individuals that have commercial or contractual disputes against corporations, but we do not represent corporations. And we apply our skills to those cases and make them very unique, and this case is one of those cases.
Yeah, and let's talk about this case, because it is, a lot of people are hearing about fracking, whether it's good, whether it's bad, but before we get into the actual facts of the case, tell us a little bit about the clients that you represent.
Absolutely. I absolutely love the Parr family. They are salt of the earth, true blue, American Texas people. They are honest, they are hardworking, they are self-made, they are the dream clients. Bob Parr is a mason by trade and profession. He owns his own business. He's also a cattleman. Lisa's a wife, and they have a perfect family. Emma is a beautiful child. She's 10 years old, and it's my great privilege in representing them.
And today we're filming at their house, and it's on a 40-acre spread.
Correct.
It's kind of like their dream house.
It is.
But as this story develops, their dream house turned out to be in a kind of a nightmarish situation. So please tell our audience a little bit about the facts of what happened to this place.
Certainly. In around 2007, well, prior to that time, Bob and Lisa met and they started dating. Around 2007, Lisa and her minor daughter moved into the property, moved into the home. In 2008, they were married here. This is their dream home. This is away from the hustle and bustle of the city, away from industrial activity. They live here by choice. And they've come here, and all of a sudden, late in 2008, the natural gas boom attacked Wise County. And specifically, natural gas activity started taking place around their home. And today they are surrounded by over 62 natural gas wells within a 2-mile radius of their home.
This is a very rich oil area for the oil companies, isn't it?
Rich in natural gas.
Yes. And what is happening here?
Well, basically what's happening is you have a significant amount of natural gas activity because we're in Texas here in this area. That's where the shale gas is located.
Yeah.
What makes this case unique is that this is unconventional shale gas with hydraulic fracturing and horizontal drilling. And that science is relatively new. It's only been around for about 10 years. But what that science permits is it allows for companies to place a number of wells and congregate them in a very small area.
Yeah.
And as a result, you have elevated emissions of air pollution and activity.
And like with a lot of major corporations, the importance of health and safety is not paramount with the surrounding communities. And as a result, Bob and Lisa have suffered some very serious medical problems. What are they?
They've suffered significant health effects as a result of this activity. Around 2008, late 2008, Lisa first started to demonstrate the health effects, and they ranged from nosebleeds to headaches, dizziness, rashes throughout the body, open sores, headaches, vomiting, tremors, loss of memory. And those symptoms persisted in Lisa more predominantly because she was living at home, basically 24 hours as a housewife at that time. And then in 2009, Bob and Emma started to demonstrate those same health effects. Today, they have been diagnosed by a doctor who is board certified in environmental health with toxic encephalopathy. That is a neurological brain injury caused by chemical exposure. In addition, Emma has been diagnosed with asthma, which is certainly a life-altering, if not a life-threatening condition.
When they initially came to you, there's been a lot of news about whether fracking is good or bad or whether it causes pollution or not.
Sure.
What were some of the legal issues that you were faced with in trying to prove their case successfully?
The issues are that this is a self-regulated industry.
Yeah.
And you've got administrative agencies that are in charge of enforcement of certain regulations, but they are woefully funded, woefully staffed.
And purposely so.
Precisely.
Right.
And they just don't have the manpower to control all of the activity that's taking place.
Yeah. For anyone who doesn't realize how sometimes the government or industry influences the government, oftentimes legislation is passed, looks good on the books,
Right.
but then it's underfunded, so in essence it's impotent in the sense that it doesn't do anything, correct?
Correct. There is zero checks and balances.
Yes.
No one's checking the homework here. And so if there's reporting, it's on the good word of the industry itself.
Yeah, it's the fox guarding the hen house.
Sure.
So what are some of the issues that you are faced with to prove to be successful in this pending lawsuit?
There are many significant issues, and they're very complicated in the science and the medicine.
Yeah.
On the science side, it's showing that the the exposures of chemicals, the releases, are at significant levels to actually cause the health effects.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know, again, the Parrs moved here by choice. This was their castle. This was a place that was away from the hustle and bustle. The industry moved to them and turned their life upside down.
Yeah. Now, some of the factors in the oil industry's favor is the fact that a lot of people misunderstand, I think, that fracking now is allowing America to be more energy independent, correct?
Absolutely.
And yet, much of the oil that is derived from fracking is not being used by Americans, is it? It's being shipped overseas.
That's certainly true.
So for us to be more energy independent, why aren't we using the oil here? I mean, that's a political question. The other thing is, in some counties, like even here or up in North Dakota, areas that were economically devastated before now have significant economic improvement because of the industry, right?
True.
And nobody wants to go against that, do they?
They don't, but where there's a boom, there's a bust.
Yeah.
And we're already seeing that in various communities throughout the country. The industry goes in with this smash and grab job. They go in quick.
Yeah.
They extract as much natural gas as they can, and then they leave.
And you were faced with batteries of lawyers, some of the biggest law firms in the country.
Sure.
That try to, like for example, your trial initially, it's set for October 14th, is that right?
Yes.
It initially was supposed to be in May, wasn't it?
February.
February.
Yes.
And why did it get postponed?
Just a natural consequence of litigation.
But it wasn't
and
your
delay.
request, was it?
Absolutely not. Absolutely
I mean,
not.
you want to get to trial.
Yes.
Okay. What are some of the changes that might happen in the industry and the way they operate as a result of your lawsuit if you're successful?
What we're bringing to light is the need to implement environmental control technology to control emissions. The EPA and the federal government have already implemented new procedures that come 2015 will require the use of flares or vapor combustors to burn off 95% of VOCs that are released.
Right.
That regulation kicks in 2015. Doesn't help my clients now.
Yeah.
But that industry, or rather that technology, has been known to the industry for well over a decade. The EPA has what's called a STAR program, where they identify various technology that literally pays for itself. Some of the technology pays for itself within the first year of use, but it's an initial economic outlay. But if you use that technology, not only do you lessen the impact on the environment, but you capture more gas.
Yeah.
You make more money. The industry just doesn't use it.
Because they don't want to spend the money.
Correct.
Okay. Today we have with us Lisa and Bob Parr.
Yes.
And let's bring them on right now so our audience can understand what happened to these poor folks. It is my great pleasure to introduce Bob and Lisa Parr. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about how this whole horrible situation has changed your lives.
Well, as far as health, our future health is the utmost importance and a very large concern of ours. But just in general, on a day-to-day basis, if our air is going to be contaminated, if numerous things, health being the main one.
Do you have to watch how much you go outside? Do you stay in the house most of the time now, or what?
I do stay in the house a lot, but I also have filtration systems in our house that filter out VOCs now.
Yeah.
We're more vigilant of symptoms. We know some of the symptoms now.
And what are some of these symptoms?
Just there's dizziness, kind of a loopy, lightheaded feeling.
Yeah.
Nosebleeds.
And that can happen any time during the day?
Yeah, it depends on what kind of activity is in the area,
Right.
and what they're doing, and if there's leaks or been problems.
Are you made aware, does the oil companies around here make you aware of problems that are happening?
No,
leaks or anything like that?
Never.
Is there anybody covering this? Is there any way you can get this information other than your lawyer?
Not to my knowledge, not to our knowledge.
Okay. What are some of the personal stories that you want our audience to know about how this has affected you and your family?
Well, at first, when I was so sick, we didn't realize what the problem was.
Yeah.
It went on for over a year, a little over a year. Just one story, for instance. Usually in the mornings when I would wake up, I would be nauseous and vomit, and I would have rashes, and I would be so dizzy.
Every day?
Yes, just about every day during this time. And my vision was distorted, that I would fall a lot. But one morning I remember waking up to just a blood-curdling scream, and it was coming from my daughter's room. And so I jumped out of bed and took 2 steps and fell and started getting sick. And I jumped up again and I fell again. I ended up falling 3 times till I crawled to her room, and I saw her covered in blood from a nosebleed. And that is devastating as a mom, to not be able to get to her in time, but to see her in that condition.
So when you went to the doctors about this, they didn't know what it was at first, did they?
No, they typically just test CBC, their normal blood panels and stuff like that. They're like an emergency room won't check for VOCs.
So how did they get the connection between what was happening here and what was going on
after
with your health?
8 or 9 doctors, her internal specialist finally kind of narrowed it down to environmental problems. I mean, he had then referred us to an environmental doctor.
And how did you end up selecting Brad's firm?
Well, I think we decided to take legal action after I had spoke to him personally, begged them to help us. I begged these guys one night saying, we are so sick, we need help. Please help us, tell me what you're doing so I can tell my doctors. And when they did spit at me and kick dirt at me and stuff.
These are the workers?
Yes. And we decided then that we needed to get legal help because they were not going to change.
No information, they didn't care about it. So.
And what do you think of your law firm so far? What the job they're doing?
I'm very happy with our law firm. I think he is very dedicated, very committed, and is doing above and beyond what I would ever expect from any lawyer.
What would you like to be seen done in this case? What kind of justice do you want?
We're not against oil and gas, whatsoever, but it's just you've got to keep it in the pipe. You've got to be more vigilant of the surrounding areas and the people, the people and the effects that it's creating on the people. They're not out there in the West Texas, out in somebody's north section anymore, away from residents and communities.
Right.
So if there's a spill or a leak, it's going to be more catastrophic now that they're coming into more closer rural areas and suburbs and residential areas.
Well, we certainly hope that with the broadcast of this show that more people are made aware of what you folks have been suffering and the tough time that you've had trying to get them to do the right thing. Right?
Yep.
Yes,
That's all we want, isn't it?
Yes.
That's it.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much for being on our program. Brad, is there anything that can be done to stop the fracking boom now?
I don't think so. I think, unfortunately, that ship has sailed. But with the Parr's case and more attention being brought to this issue, hopefully the practices improve and become safer.
I want to emphasize your case is coming up for trial October 14th.
Yes.
I hope you bring us up to date on what happens, and we wish you much success. And thank you very much for allowing us to film this show.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.